Stone Cold, the Hellraiser is back!
Here we go! Evolution of the Shield!
John Cena versus the Showstopper!
Hulk Hogan and The Rock in the same ring!
You will never take my place at the head of the table!
Undertaker! On the Hell's Gate submission! Oh my God! What?
My God, Michaels! Just kick Cena's head off!
The Monday Night Wars have come to WrestleMania!
It'll be The Rock! It'll be Austin one-on-one!
Third and final, The Undertaker!
Do you believe in miracles?
The streak is over!
Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome back to the WWE Retro on the WWE podcast on this Friday, March 10th. As I'm back, was super sick last week, as you heard on the current state of WWE, but I'm back this week to give you some more retro content. And this week we are going to be talking about Brock Lesnar and his top 5 moments in the WWE. And you may ask, why are we going to be talking about Brock Lesnar? And the reason is number one, I think we could almost universally agree that his match against Omos is one of the more underwhelming matches in the history of Brock Lesnar's career, especially if you consider it from a pay-per-view or major pay-per-view, or even more specifically WrestleMania standpoint. But more so than that, it's with some of the rumblings that this may be the final ride for Brock Lesnar, and he may be contemplating riding off into the sunset following this run with WWE. And, you know, obviously a lot of people have some animosity towards Brock Lesnar, which is fair and obvious because of that he comes in whenever he wants, often gets whatever he wants. But I think Brock Lesnar has legitimized the wrestling business in a way that nobody else ever has, and has brought an element to WWE that will probably never again be replicated. As not only a real-life fighter, but a super athlete. Brock Lesnar is a super athlete, and I know a lot of people, you know, criticize his matches, that, you know, they're always spot fest, which they are, but he's a guy that can go, and he's a guy that when he cares enough to really make a match worthwhile, he gives it his 110%. So that's why I think it's important to look back on Brock Lesnar's top 5 moments in WWE. Now, obviously, they're subjective in a lot of ways. They're my picks, but I'm using objectivity as to what I think they meant for his career. So it's not necessarily a match. It could be a match. It could be a segment. It could be whatever. Just parts of his career and moments that I think meant the most for Brock Lesnar. And then when we're done, there certainly will be some honorable mentions, and I'm sure you guys will disagree, but I think that these were the best 5 moments that really outline Brock Lesnar's career and the ones that we will forever remember him by. So without further ado, here is moment number 5. So obviously Brock Lesnar's return to WWE in 2012 was a massive one because he had been gone from the company for 8 years, had gone and tried out for the Minnesota Vikings, went to the UFC, won the heavyweight championship in mixed martial arts in the UFC Ultimate Fighting Championship, and had legitimized himself as a real badass, a legitimate cage fighter. And I think that him coming back in 2012 after 8 years away from the squared circle really kind of shot a jolt into WWE, especially given the fact where they were at this point in time. Triple H was just moving away from being a full-time in-ring competitor. The Undertaker was sparingly an in-ring competitor at this point. Batista was no longer around. Randy Orton was in a real lull of his career. The Rock had just main evented WrestleMania by defeating John Cena the night prior, WrestleMania 28, but now he was going to go away probably until the summer. They needed an injection of superstardom and a difference to John Cena, and that's exactly what Brock Lesnar was. Like almost the antithesis of what John Cena is. Just like a badass who doesn't give a damn about anyone but himself. And, crazy to think that that's 11 years ago now. He comes back, loses his first match to John Cena, which I always found a little bizarre at Extreme Rules, but really returns with a bang. And all of a sudden, everyone is talking about Brock Lesnar again in WWE for the first time in 8 years. So let's get to moment number 4. So just like that, Brock Lesnar wins the Royal Rumble by finally eliminating The Undertaker after a brilliant Final Four showdown. Like, that was one of the best Final Fours ever between Kane, Batista, The Undertaker, and Brock. And look, Brock had already won a WWE championship by this point, but they were really trying to push Brock Lesnar as a babyface after breaking in as a heel. And he had already had a bit of a story with The Undertaker, defeating The Undertaker at No Mercy 2002 in a Hell in a Cell match. So very, very fitting that The Undertaker was the final one that that Brock Lesnar had to throw over the top rope in order to secure the 2003 Royal Rumble victory. And even more so impressive and even more so significant was the fact that Brock Lesnar earlier in the night had to qualify for the Royal Rumble by defeating the Big Show in a singles match right off the bat to open the pay-per-view. And you really felt here, it was kind of obvious, it was kind of a predictable outcome, especially when you knew Brock had to qualify to get into the Rumble, where he was in that point in time, his building storyline against then WWE Champion Kurt Angle on SmackDown. You felt it was going this way, but this is a situation, and was a situation of, you know, the predictable outcome isn't always the wrong one. This is an absolute perfect example of just that. Without further ado, let's get to moment number 3.
It's a waste of time to ask him. He may not have a choice though. Cena! Look at this! Look at this! Here! Desperation move by Cena! Desperation move by John Cena! Submission hold! And Cena found a way! He's found a way! Can John Cena somehow get Lesnar to tap out? I told you! Don't give up on John Cena! Is Lesnar gonna tap to Cena? John Cena! Desperation! He's got it locked in! What's Lesnar gonna do? Lesnar's not going to know where to go, guys. He's in the middle of the ring. Oh, man, screaming. Lesnar got caught. He's going to tap. He's going to tap. I think this is Lesnar on there. Brock Lesnar. Look at Lesnar. Oh, my God. Lesnar reversing, countering out, now hammering away at Cena again. What a specimen. Oh, my God. We've seen on top. Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar going for the thought of Cena for the championship. Lesnar with the cover. Lesnar has won the WWE World title in convincing fashion. And new WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Brock Lesnar. That is the most dominating performance I have ever seen in a championship match in my life.
So, for all intents and purposes, he squashed John Cena at SummerSlam 2014. Brock Lesnar absolutely squashed John Cena. And this was so significant because John Cena had just regained the championship, I think, two months prior, after Daniel Bryan had to relinquish the Undisputed title. Well, at that point, it was the WWE World Heavyweight Championship when you had the two belts before they merged them, and now is the WWE title as we come to know today, visually. And it was the first championship that Brock Lesnar won upon his return to the company 2.5 years later. And it was striking because he just squashed John Cena, the guy who had been the face of the company for the previous decade. And for him to just absolutely demolish John Cena in that fashion really kind of put it into perspective. Like, oh my God, like what kind of plans do they have for Brock Lesnar right now? And he would go on a run for the following 6 months or so, and would eventually drop it to Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 31 in April of 2015, or March. No, it was April 2015, in the heist of the century, in my opinion, the greatest cash-in of all time. And it was a very dominant run, and it was the first kind of like part-time championship run we had seen. We had kind of seen it with The Rock a year and a half prior in the winter of 2013 leading into WrestleMania 39, or 29 rather. But at least The Rock was showing up regularly. He defended it at Elimination Chamber. And it was only at two and a half months. And to his credit, The Rock was showing up regularly. This was the first time where we really saw an absentee world champion. And you have to remember, much like we're seeing nowadays, he was one champion for both shows. And at this point in time, SmackDown really wasn't a thing. There was no hard brand split whatsoever. SmackDown was an afterthought. Like, I remember at this point in time, I wouldn't even pay attention to SmackDown. Like, if you missed SmackDown, like, on a week-to-week basis, it really didn't matter because all the major storylines were advanced on Monday Night Raw. So really, really not an issue in that regard. But it was just so significant in so many ways. And it was the first time upon his return to the company in 2012 that he was put on the top of the mountain, and he was now the guy. He was the world champion. And by doing that, the way he obtained that was absolutely squashing John Cena. With that being said, let's get to moment number 2 of Brock Lesnar's career. So just like that, the Brock Lesnar defeats The Rock in what was pretty much an unofficial passing of the torch, because Stone Cold Steve Austin had walked out 2 months prior. The Rock was on his way to Hollywood, and they needed the next big thing. No pun intended. And that's exactly what this was. And I know there's a story, I believe it's Bruce Pritchard who told it on his podcast, Something to Wrestle With, where he said that The Rock stressed that Brock Lesnar had to beat him clean if you really wanted to sell him as the next face of the company. And that's exactly what happened. And obviously, if you've watched this match before, you probably heard it in the audio there, the fans were turning on The Rock in Brooklyn because they knew he was walking away. They knew that he was leaving them. And Brock Lesnar was the guy. Brock Lesnar was the guy who was being crowned and given the torch to be the next face of the company. And, debuting 6 months prior, not even, in following WrestleMania 18. I think that he absolutely destroyed everything in his path that first year. And The Rock was the one who kicked everything off. Sure, he had defeated Hulk Hogan before, but main event of SummerSlam, one of the biggest events WWE puts on annually, defeating one of the greatest champions of all time clean in the middle of the ring, 6 months, not even, after you debuted in the company. It was absolutely incredible what Brock Lesnar did, and it instantly solidified him as, in my opinion, elite. He had it. Brock Lesnar felt like he belonged right off the bat, and you could say that of a lot of people. To use recent examples, Austin Theory is a good example, Logan Paul, all that, but to defeat a guy like The Rock right off the bat, no, that's never heard of. Absolutely insane to me. As we get to number 1, I don't think it needs that much suspense. I think everyone knows where this is going.
So long. Till finally someday a new young lion comes along and dethrones him. Are we witnessing that? It's heartbreaking to watch. I think we all are.
This is yours.
Every great warrior
21 and 1 and
needs
you
someone
are
greater at some point.
You're gonna let him deprive you of this? He's taking this away from you! You're Brock Lesnar! You're a conqueror!
The paycheck from Paul Heyman. Lesnar's just picking apart the Undertaker. Oh, man. Those body blows. It is a struggle, guys, for Undertaker to just get to his feet. He spent most of this match all on the back. A few signs here and there, but look at this. Look at this face of the Undertaker. Undertaker! Brock Lesnar! Are you kidding me? Last ride! But Undertaker can't capitalize. He can't. Lesnar's out. Phenom's got to try to take advantage right here, right now. His moment. What's he going to do? What is Undertaker going to do? Waiting for Lesnar to make it back to his feet. Brock Lesnar back to his feet. Undertaker stalking Lesnar. What can he do? What does he have the strength left to do? Undertaker with Brock Lesnar apart. Perhaps looking for the tombstone pile driver. Does he have the strength left? Tombstone pile driver. The cover on Lesnar. Lesnar kicked out at 2. My God. These guys have hit each other with everything they have. 2 F5s. Undertaker kicked out both times. Tombstone pile driver. Brock Lesnar kicks out. Undertaker. Two incredible athletes fighting for their place in history. Undertaker signals it's over. Maybe he's not here. Again. My Brock Lesnar counter. Brock Lesnar counter. Lesnar counter. He's got Undertaker on his shoulders again. And again. Going for a triple. A third and five for the Undertaker. Brock Lesnar into the cover. Hooks the leg. The streak is over.
And just like that, Brock Lesnar cemented himself as one of the greatest of all time. Like it or not, agree with the decision or not, that solidified Brock Lesnar for what they wanted him to be. An unstoppable force that could do things that no other competitor could do. And, you know, in a lot of ways, I agree with that sentiment. I get it. I understand that at this point in time, Brock Lesnar still had a lot of runway as one of the more dominant wrestlers in the company. You know, he would last another, 6 years after this as an on and off world champion, holding the title for extensive reigns. But even more so than that is that he would undisputedly cement himself, like I just said, as arguably a Mount Rushmore wrestler. And that's not far-fetched to say at all. The draw that he was, the in-ring competitor that he was, the character he was, the legitimacy he brought to the business. Obviously, since his return in 2021, like it or not, I don't mind the Cowboy Brock gimmick. I think that it's added a lot of depth to his character. It's shown that he can be something more than just a killing machine with a mouthpiece. But obviously, I like the classic tracksuit Brock more. But all in all, I think Brock Lesnar will always go down in my mind as one of the most unique characters because of the legitimacy he brought. And this was a moment that, like it or not, really cemented him at the top. And as for some honorable mentions, defeating Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 19 certainly was one of them. I didn't include it because it was his second championship, so it didn't feel as important against The Rock. And the Royal Rumble victory in 2003 kind of went hand in hand in the middle of those, and I thought that was very significant, given that kind of started his mega push as a babyface less than a year into his career. And you could also argue that, you know, defeating Goldberg at WrestleMania 33 to win the Universal Championship for the first time was a big moment for him. I think that was a massive moment. His match against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 34, where he shocked the world. There were a ton of moments, but I honestly think that these were the best moments and the top 5 moments of Brock Lesnar's career. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed Brock Lesnar's top 5 moments. As always, you can get me on Twitter at ADeMarco25. You can get Matt on Twitter at wrestling_audio, or you can email him each and every week for the WWE podcast mailbag. Anyway, guys, I hope you have a great weekend. I will talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.